Hey, it's Nikki. Before we start the show, I wanted to invite you to download a free resource that I put together for you as the listener. This is my gift to you. You can get it right now. It is the 17 buying signals. Now, I wrote a whole book about buying signals, and I wanted to put it into a really simple format that you can have at your fingertips or in front of you whenever you want to. So I took out the 17 buying signals from the book, put them on a simple PDF, also gave you the kind of what to do when you get a buying signal, and explain what a buying signal is. So that PDF is available for you as a listener to go and download right now by going to yoursalesmaven.com/17. That's yoursalesmaven.com/17 so that you can start acting on these buying signals and closing more business. All right, when you're ready, let's start the show.
Do sales conversations make you feel awkward or pushy? It's time to ditch the outdated salesy strategies. Your guide, Nikki Roush, will show you how to combine kindness with selling skills to meet your prospects where they are, and in the process, how to up-level your influence and income. Learn how to earn business easily and effortlessly. Here's Nikki.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to the Sales Maven Show. I'm your host, Nikki Roush. Today's episode is a part of the Mastering Excellence series. This is the concept, Mastering Excellence, that comes from my background in neurolinguistic programming, where we learn that there is a structure to excellence. The objective of these interviews is to dig into the structure of how our guest is getting exceptional results in their business and or their life, and how you can see and experience that structure, take it and apply it to your own life and or business and get similar results. So that is where we're going to go today. And I'm super excited because today's guest is Susan Moe. Now, if you haven't met Susan yet, let me tell you a little bit about her. She is amazing. Susan Moe is the founder of Ascended Presence. It's a coaching and training company that helps people live richer and more meaningful lives by teaching them how to listen to and trust their intuition. Susan is an international clairvoyant reader, a life coach, a spiritual mentor, and public speaker. Through her readings and trainings, she empowers people to take ownership of their emotional well-being, regardless of their external circumstances. Susan is an engaging public speaker and thought leader. She shares how mindfulness and meditation are great first steps, but it's what we do with our awareness that makes the difference. Susan believes that it's this level of ascended presence needed for us to create the true joy we wish to experience in our lives. Susan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here, and particularly the topic that we're going to get into, which I'm going to tell you guys in just a second what that is. But I always like to give a little context to how we got connected. I don't actually know if you know this and how you think we got connected, but I'm going to tell from my story, and I'd love to hear from your perspective. But I heard you on a podcast a while ago. You were on Carol Cox's Speaking Your Brand podcast, and I was so impressed with the conversation that you had. I'm a huge fan of Carol's. I consider her a friend, and she's somebody I have great admiration for. And she was talking about that she had a session with you, like a clairvoyant, like a reading session with you. And Carol, to me, is so like, I don't know what the right word is. Like, I just think she's very, very reality-based. She's very, she knows her mind. She's very specific, and she's super smart. She's just all these great things. And I was like, I'm kind of surprised that Carol had this reading, and I'm super interested. And so I immediately reached out to you and said, Susan, can I have a reading too?
Yeah.
Is that how you know? Is that the story you remember of how we got connected?
Well, I believe you were on Carol's podcast.
Yeah, I've been on her twice, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have had awareness of you because I also am a huge fan of hers. Just taught me so much. Yeah. And then we had that reading, And then I joined her Thought Leader Academy. And what I was telling you earlier that, you have done this training for her. And so every time people come into the academy and they see your training, they're like, oh my God, that Nikki Rausch, that training was amazing. So then I just reached out. A lot of times as entrepreneurs, we are working in these, not really a silo, but we don't always get immediate feedback. So I just felt so compelled. Finally, after that, probably the 10th person was just singing your praises. I'm just going to reach out and tell her, like, just so you know, people are talking about you behind your back, and it's all love. So,
and I so appreciate that. I just think that says who you are as a person, that you would stop, that you would take the time. You wrote me this really beautiful email and you said all these nice things that completely made my day and kind of made me blush a little bit. And I'm just so grateful that you took the time to share nice things. I love people who go out of their way, not just to share nice things about me, but just to do that for other people. I think we need more people like that in the world. I try to do that, and I don't think I do it as successfully as I would like to. And you inspired me by doing that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we do that all the time at the end of the podcast, shouting out other people. I've been enjoying those.
Oh, thank you. I get to, I just feel so blessed, honestly, at the people that I know and that I get to work with. And I want to share because people share amazing people with me. That's how I got to get to know you a little bit and have an amazing, reading with you a few months back. And yeah, so this has been fun. Well, let's talk about the topic that we're going to talk about today. So I will say that selfishly, I feel like maybe this is just for me, but I'm hoping it's for the audience as well. So for you, the listener, I hope you will get as much out of this conversation as I'm hoping that I will get out of it as well. So the topic today is how to have energetic sovereignty in business so that you don't take sales results personally, which I feel like most of my clients need. There are days when I need this, this whole idea of energetic sovereignty. Wow. Thank you for coming on and sharing this with us.
It's really, really powerful in business, in life, in our personal relationships. Being able to have that is really important. It's funny, you and I, we use a lot, we talk a lot about the same things with your NLP background. You would say maybe detachment, and I would say neutrality. So I think there's a lot of overlap between our perspectives and the way that we work, for sure.
Yeah. I know I spend a lot of time with clients talking about mindset and doing things to really keep boundaries so that you don't let these things get into your head, and how that can really diminish diminish your business and you feeling like, oh, nobody wants to buy from me. Everybody thinks my pricing is too high. All this stuff that we have that just rolls around in our head that is not useful. And when I think about energetic sovereignty, and of course you're the expert, so I want to hear your definition of it. But I will say I've experienced in the last couple years of I've had this a couple times in my life, but definitely in the last 2 years, some identity attachment to things that are outside of me. And when those fall apart, when things feel like they're taken away, I feel like I've had some I've had some identity crisis as a result of that. So this is why I'm saying I need this discussion with you probably as much as anybody listening, this ability to have energetic sovereignty and it just feels like it's so needed for all of us, but for me in particular.
For all of us. I actually literally just taught a 3-part series on identities and recognizing them and how to do that. But you said the magic words. You said all of the thoughts in our head. And we can think things, we can think about boundaries, we can think, everybody always says, your identity is not associated with your business. That's in the brain. And that's why it's so hard for us to actually extract ourselves, because our energy is what's in the business. It's not just a mind thing like, oh, I identify as my business. It's we have our energy in there. And there's this enmeshment. This happens a lot in personal relationships as well. There's this overlapping, this enmeshment. And if you think about, if we think about someone in a sales situation, if they are if they're enmeshed with that person, or if their identity or their energy is tied to the outcome of that situation, it makes it really, really, really challenging. And let's say, for example, I read both of your books like multiple times. They're so good. But in one of them, I can't remember which one, but you talk about this hello, or
Here, kitty, kitty.
Here, kitty, kitty, right? And that requires patience. And when I read that, how it looked to me is that very often people, if they believe or they have this fantasy, so say they're if they feel uncomfortable in sales, then what they want to do is they want to feel comfortable, but they believe that the only time that they will be able to feel comfortable is when this sales situation is done. I don't even care if I lose the sale. I'm so stressed out and so anxious and so uncomfortable that I want to just do the dog one, like, here, sit, just buy or don't buy or whatever. And so, but the problem with that is that then your power is outside of you. You are at the mercy of the end of that sales cycle. So what I would teach is, how do you bring your energy back into your own body, and you recognize how your body is feeling so uncomfortable? Maybe there's all these thoughts and beliefs, like you have mentioned before, about sales being slimy or uncomfortable or awkward, and all these kinds of things. But you bring your attention off of this situation outside of you, and you bring it into your body and say, oh, I'm really uncomfortable here. And then you look at that discomfort. You can learn so much about yourself, your unconscious thoughts and beliefs, but that's only the first step. Recognizing those patterns, like in the NLP that you talk about, but then energetically, we want to grab anywhere that energy is sitting in the body and move it out of our bodies, not under lock and key, not white knuckling it or gritting our teeth and smiling through it and faking our way, but actually moving that discomfort out of our bodies, so that we have the space then to bring in trust, peace, self-acceptance, joy, amusement, gratitude for all of these things. And that's where the presence comes in. You're literally extracting your energy off of that other person, off of the outcome, off of that identity of you being, a good person or a bad business person, if it goes well or not, and you bring it into your body and you release it. And that's the detachment. That's that neutrality. I can share an example. So I'm gonna jump in here, because I want to look at this from your perspective. So if I was going to stand in for you for a day, so I get to be you, right? What a blessing that would be. Okay, so if I get to be you, and if I notice that I am feeling this enmeshment, this attachment in some way, what do I need to do first? How do I need to think, or how do I have to behave to start to recognize what you're talking about of bringing it into my body? What's that first step? Okay, presence. Okay. You have to be present. Presence is the key to everything, because if you are out in the future waiting for this outcome, or if you are like, we can go into the past, we can go into the future, we can go into other people's energies, we can go into our businesses, right? So we want to be aware of where our energy is in the time-space continuum. Okay. So, right. So we want to be able to, and the reason, and how, one way to be helpful with presence is that our bodies live in the present, right? Like our heart's beating in the present. It's not beating in the past or the future. We're not breathing in the past or the future. We're breathing right here, right now. So when you bring your attention into your body, reunite yourself with your body, then you're in presence. And that's where the peace is. Because right now, you and I were on this Zoom, right? There could be a tsunami happening. I'm on the coast in Santa Barbara. There could be a tsunami happening. My children could be being washed away. There could be an earth. I don't know. But I do know that right here, right now with you, we're safe. I'm safe. Just sometimes just It's okay. It's right here, right now. Right.
So if for those of you who are, listening, which hopefully you are listening to the podcast, Susan just did this thing where she touched like the top of her head, she touched her shoulder, she touched like over like her chest, her heart. That is something we learned in NLP too, is this sometimes it's like you have to physically like touch yourself to bring yourself back to that presence. So just to kind of recap here. So step one is to bring yourself back to your presence. That's noticing things like your heartbeat, your breath, actually being able to touch yourself, your head, your shoulders, your heart, or your chest, and say like, I'm safe. Like, I'm okay. I'm safe. Right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now what's next?
Then the next piece, of course, is to recognize where you are, because most of us, we just grow up and we're either ruminating in the past, or we're stressing about the future, or we're in someone else's space, or we're in our businesses, or we're we're not in our bodies. Mm-hmm. And what happens is we as souls, we are smart critters. We don't want to be in a stressed out body. So when you can ground, I teach an energetic tool about grounding energetically to the center of the earth, so our body feels safe. That makes it more comfortable for you to be in your body and in the present moment. And that also, so really finding where you are. A lot of times people they're actually never living in the present moment. And you can know this because time will go very, very, very fast. The days turn into weeks, the weeks turn into months, the months turn into years. You're like, what? We're in 2022. And of course, we've had this pandemic thing that really disoriented us. Mm-hmm. But if you're not present to your life, it goes by very, very, very quickly. But when you are present, you can just elongate time and just really be here and paying attention and really enjoying this moment, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really powerful what you just shared. And I don't know, as a listener, if you can relate to this, but I know that there are times where it just feels like the clock is just spinning. It's just fast forward. I can't believe the day is gone. I can't believe the week is gone. It was just Monday and now it's Friday, and, having that experience. So that's a good indicator that I am not living and really centering myself in the presence, that I'm too much in the future. Or maybe, I don't know if that's also an indication if you're living in the past, but it's like things are going really, really fast. That is a good place to stop and catch yourself. So when you catch yourself in that moment, is it still going back to, my heart, my breath, my like being really, really present? And now bringing this back to this energetic sovereignty in your business, so that you're not overly attached to sales results or taking things personally when they go well or go badly in your business, probably more importantly, when they go badly. What else do we need to be thinking about or doing in those moments so that we continue to thrive?
Well, that is a great question. And it's basically a practice. So I find that the easiest way to develop this awareness of where your energy is with this time-space continuum. Because we can recognize, oh, I'm ruminating about what happened last year and I just keep replaying this over in my head. Or so typically what happens is our bodies get very, very heavy and sad when we're in the past. So if you pay attention to what your body's experiencing, and then when we go out into the future, we get very, very anxious. So those are kind of little telltale signs of how you're feeling, is where are you? And then you can kind of bring your attention back to the present. But once you get used to noticing when you've left your body, you can make it more nuanced. You can feel when you're in someone else's space. You can feel when you're in your business. You can feel when your energy is in a sales call, like, because you just feel so much effort, and then you can be like, oh, wait a minute, oh wait, and then you can reclaim it back. This is really just about moving energy, noticing where your energy is, and then moving it and extracting it out. Because I guarantee you, if I'm in this difficult sell, or not difficult, but right, this sales situation, or if I am working around the clock because I think I am my business, then I said, oh, wait a minute. I have so much of my energy tied up in here. How do I bring it back? And it's the same way you bring it back from the time. You just come right back into your body. We enter and exit our bodies through the top of our head, through our crown chakra, which might be way too much for people.
I love it. Keep going.
And that happens. And we can actually bring it back. And what's beautiful about that is, say if you're in a relationship with someone, and if you plant two trees too close together, neither one of those trees can grow to its fullest potential, right? So if we are too close to our business, if we are enmeshed in our business, neither of us will be able to grow to our fullest potential, right? So we want to make sure that we...
Okay, hold on. I just want to say, like, that felt like a mic drop moment right there. Like, if you're too enmeshed in your business, this idea of like, if you see yourself as one tree, your business is another tree, they're planted too close together, you cannot grow to your full potential. There has to be some separation. Wow. Like that right there.
Yeah.
I feel like that was worth the price of admission. That was amazing. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I want to comment on it.
Well, I'm glad that reminds me of someone I was working with. She's a musician, and I was, talking about this, and she had created this CD, and I was teaching her how to extract her energy off of this CD that she had produced and released into the world. And she's like, "Why on God's green earth would I do that? I am so proud of this work that I have done. I'm so proud of this. I'm delighted with this thing. I don't want to pull my energy off of it." And I was like, well, by you having your energy on it, you are limiting what it needs to be going out into the world, because we by default, we only have so much, beliefs on what this thing could be. But if we take our energy off, maybe we could even ask it, what do you need to be? I set you free. And that, of course, requires trust. Trust that the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, Gloria, Yoda, this higher force will be what it needs to be. And then that gives you your energy back for your next creation. If you have all your energy in this creation, you don't have it available for your next creation. Right?
Yeah, really good point. Okay. So before we get too far ahead, I want to comment on something else that I wrote down that you said. So one of the indicators that you're living in the past is that your body can feel heavy and you can feel sad. And one of the indicators that you're living in the future is when you feel anxious. Those are some really concrete descriptions that I think most people can relate to. So when you feel, I struggle with anxiety from time to time, more so in the last couple of years, but like, okay, so I'm living in the future, and those days where I'm feeling heavy, where I'm feeling sad, okay, I'm living in the past. That is such a good, like, at least I can identify what's going on so I can make a shift. Okay. So I just wanted to comment on that. Okay. So here's another question for you. When it comes to the goals around energetic sovereignty, what are your goals? What are your goals for that with your own business, so that you're not getting that you have energetic sovereignty in your own business? Like, what is the goal around that for you?
I would say two things. One is, I was a total stress case until I was about 32 years old. I was just I was like a fish in water. I just didn't even know I was so anxious, because I was just always anxious. And I don't like that. And I directly believe that contributed to me getting cancer when I was 30, because everything energetic ultimately will manifest into the physical some way, somehow. And so for me, having energetic sovereignty, not only with my business, but with other people, and just and independent of external circumstances. It's not that I don't have relationships or anything like that, or like I'm a still wall or anything, but I have the confidence to know that, if I get tripped up or something happens, that I can come back to equilibrium. So I have been able to overcome this chronic anxiety, and the freedom that I receive is my goal. And I'll share this example that just literally 48 hours ago, and I truly believe that this happened right before our podcast so that I could share this. But on Wednesday, I was invited to speak to a group. And before the session even ended, a couple of the participants stood up and said, "You have been the best guest speaker we have had in the entire series. You've helped me so much." Blah, 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 right?
Lovely.
And what I felt so grateful for that, because then the person who brought me in was like, "Oh, okay, that was a good call."
Yeah.
But then literally a half an hour later, I kid you not, I received this very personal rejection from something that really took me aback.
Okay.
Now, had I had my energy or my identity tied to those external situations, I would have been on this massive roller coaster. But the high of the high from that extreme validation to literally crashing down into the depths of despair from this personal, just really, shocking, embarrassing. I don't even know how to describe it, but I would have been just an emotional wreck. But because I extract my energy out of those, I just have neutrality. It's like, right? If I own my wins, or I guess I would say that I'm very clear on the difference between what my ego is versus myself as a soul, versus myself as an energetic being. And myself as an energetic being is my number one priority. So that's my goal. We shower and we brush our teeth and we eat well and exercise. We take such good care of our physical bodies, but it's also really important, maybe even more so, that we take care of our energetic bodies, our energetic souls. And that neutrality helps us to do that.
I have so many places I want to go with this, but I also know I want to keep us on track too. Making sure that we're getting, I love everything that you're saying, and this idea of like not letting your ego run away, because you will have those really high highs and you will also have those really lows. And if you feel like you're riding a roller coaster, think about a kid that's, just had a big meal and they go on a roller coaster, you get off, you feel sick. Like, we don't want to feel sick, right? So we need to learn how to energetically get back to neutral, I think is what you said, neutrality. I love that.
Yeah. And I would add also, we don't want to be scared, right? We don't want to be scared of the lows. We're always chasing the highs, but because we're afraid of the lows. So we'll do everything either to, whatever we can do to mitigate that awful low. And what my point is that when we learn these tools and techniques, we have the confidence, no problem. I'm going to have a low tomorrow. I don't know, but it's okay because I can bring myself back to equilibrium, because that's how you work the energy. I decide how I feel. And it's not a mind game. It's not a grin and bear it and fake it. It's not a bury it deep in our body somewhere. It's that I release it. I can be aware of where my energy is.
Okay. So my next question then is, how do you know it's time to pay attention to your energetic sovereignty? What are some cues, indicators for you? And especially in regards to chasing the highs, because I do think that is a common, I think it's common for most of us. We love our business. We love what we're doing. It's super satisfying. And, to reach some of those highs and attain these next levels. So how do you know it's time to pay attention, like to energetic sovereignty?
I would say that energetic sovereignty is not something you pay attention to. It's who you are. So it's really, like, you're in the beginning, it might feel like this is something you're learning and things like that. But ultimately with practice, it just becomes who you are. It's just integrated with who you are. And I can say, as an example, every morning, even just when you wake up, just recognizing that liminal space between the dream world and your physical reality. It's like, wow, where was I? That was so special. And just recognizing that, wow, several 100,000 people didn't wake up today, and I did. So everything that happens today is a bonus, right? That puts you in that abundance mindset. Anything that happens, I'm so lucky to experience it because I woke up today. So it's just that presence is just, it's how you are all the time. Your body is always feeling, your brain is always thinking, your heart's beating, your lungs are doing their thing, your body's having its emotions. So it's a mundane thing, right? Washing the dishes. Where are you? Where are you? Can you feel the temperature of the water? Can you smell the soap? Are you here at the sink, or are you way off in, the weekend?
Wherever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. I love it. All right. Is there anything we haven't talked about specifically around energetic sovereignty with your business and not taking these things personally that you want to make sure that we comment on?
I would just say that our society does not validate or promote or support this kind of thinking. And my goal is to raise awareness to the freedom, the joy, the humanity that happens when I can't recognize you as a soul if I'm not recognizing myself as a soul. I have all of my thoughts in my head and this and that, and that if there's a way that we can start to train and teach these skills to ourselves and to our children when we're younger, it has this positive ripple effect. And so much of the travesty that we see happening in the world today is because we have lost our connection with ourselves as spiritual beings. It's just in this go, 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 fight, 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 get, extractive mentality. But when you pull back, I feel like everything you teach is against this bro mentality of just get what you can, right? You are teaching humanity in these relationships with people in the sales process. And that's why I just love all that you're doing too, because it's the same thing, just you're using just different language. Mine's about energy. Yours is, this NLP and the humanity bringing into the business context, but there's a huge, huge overlap to that.
Yeah. I was thinking about, I don't know what the exact thing around the story is. And I wonder if you know this story. It's a parable where it's like, there's a farmer and, something happens, something breaks, and his neighbor says, "Oh gosh, that's so horrible." And, what down on your luck you are. And that's really too bad. And the farmer's response is, "We'll see." And then because somebody gifts this farmer some new piece of equipment that's going to help with the farm. And then the neighbor comes over and is like, "Oh, look how lucky you are. Look at how, life is so grand. And, people take such good care of you. And, can you believe your luck? Like, look, and the farmer's result is like, "Well, we'll see." And they just keep giving these examples of like something negative happened, something positive happened. And so I think about that when I think about neutrality, of like not getting too attached to the highs, not getting overly attached to the lows, and seeing when you can pull yourself back to neutral, because it is very hard to ride that roller coaster for an extended period of time without completely burning yourself out.
Absolutely. It's so debilitating. And I just want people to understand that this doesn't mean that we're uncaring, unfeeling. No. Because we're human. We will have those roller coasters, but it's just gaining the confidence that it's okay, I can come back. Mm-hmm. And for any parents out there, something along the line, there's a wonderful children's book called, I think it's like, It Could Be Worse. And it follows this little mouse around and he falls into a hole. And then you see that the cat was going to get him, but him falling into the hole saved his life as an example. And it's funny, I emailed Carol and Diane from Speaking Your Brand this week, because I was involved in a mudslide and we were rescued. And I saw with the hurricane and Ian that there were some streets in Orlando where there was alligators swimming in the streets. Yeah. And the same thing, like when we were being rescued from our house from this mudslide, it was like, it never dawned on me to be worried about alligators. Like, how lucky was I? I was at a regular mudslide. There was no alligators that we had to worry about. It was before the pandemic. Like all of these things that were so blessed and that felt like a low, but right, it could have been so much lower. So yeah. That's a good reminder.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. I feel inspired. I also feel like I've got some new tools to recognize these moments the super highs, but also the lows, and specifically of like, what am I actually feeling and how can I bring myself back and be really present in this moment? Because it is very easy to go to the past, and it's also very easy to go to the future, and living like today moment, being really present. It doesn't come natural to me to be really present in the moment, but it is a work in progress. So I'm super happy to have had this conversation with you. So as we wrap up today, I do want to ask just some fun questions, maybe, so the audience will get to know a little bit more about you on a personal side. So here's one of my questions for you is, how do you celebrate your wins, kind of keeping in mind with this neutrality, but also, wanting to acknowledge that when things go well?
Well, I would say in the business world, I don't do that very well, because it is that like that neutrality. It feels just very a part of the flow.
Okay.
But what on a personal level, and this is where how you speed up time, right? By not being present, it just kind of evaporates. But you can also elongate time. And so when you have an experience if you're present to recognize that it's a very special experience, then you can really focus deep in on that. And it's almost as if time stops, it slows down. And then you get to feel that wonderful feeling for a much, much, much longer time. And I have an example if you want to share that, but that's as one example. I was driving my son to tennis practice when he was about 16, and we were just driving, and all of us, and it was nothing. We were just chatting about nothing, and we were driving, and all of a sudden, I somehow must have come back to the car, come back to my body, and I just realized, wow, Susan, you are in a car with your teenage son, and you're chatting about nothing. You're not fighting. You're not lecturing. You're just chatting. You're driving to tennis, and he popped out of the car and grabbed his bag and went off to practice. And to the outside person, it was probably just like some mom driving her kid to practice. Like there's nothing. But for me, my heart just exploded, because when I think back to when I was a teenager, like I did not have that relationship with my parents. And but I was able to just elongate that. I just sat in that moment, every red light, and it slowed that time down. And I'm sure that my son was not like, wow, my mom's having an existential experience right now. But on some level, I believe that he must have felt that I was deeply present to that moment. And every time I've reflected on that moment, my heart bursts again. I have a kid. We're chatting. This is so special. And you've talked about, like, when do you know to pay attention? No one ever would write that down. But because I was paying attention, I get the gift that keeps on giving. It was so beautiful.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that story. I love that so much. Okay. What is something that people would be surprised to learn about you?
Let's see. Well, I think I already said that I was a super basket case when I was growing up, but I was living in France, and I'll share a different story.
Okay.
No, I'll share this one. Super, super easy. My husband and I, when we were very young, we were traveling to Starbucks, or to Seattle. We went to our very first Starbucks. We didn't know what it was. We just saw these people standing in line, and so we went and checked it out. We didn't even know what this grande venti. This is how old we are. This is like so early. It was like the second store. And so the lady suggested that we get a mocha. And I sat there at the counter, and I got some kind of I said to my husband, I was like, we should invest in this company. And, I went home and I talked to my dad. My dad's like, oh, so you need thousands of dollars to invest. This is way, way, way before E-Trade. And so I guess what would be surprised is that my whole life, I was getting psychic hits, downloads, intuitions, but I didn't know what they were. And it wasn't until I became conscious that I learned and then developed them. And then so it is possible that you can go from being totally clueless to really tapping into that, and into the point where you're giving readings for people and really creating transformation. So there's nothing special about me at all. Everybody is psychic. Everybody has the gifts. It's not even a gift, it's just who we are that comes with the body. So I think that's kind of fun that I missed that opportunity. Can you imagine? I'd be
People talk to you out of investing in Starbucks because you didn't know to trust your intuition or your download in that moment. Wow. That's a fun story. Fun and disappointing, right? That you didn't invest, but also a good lesson for all of us when we get those little like pops. I think you called it a pop. Like it was like a pop of something that came to you and you're like, we should invest in this.
Exactly.
And then somebody, said no, or that's not possible or whatever happened.
And I believe that. And the thing is, we're always getting those little hits all the time. But if we're not present, if we're not home to receive them, they're out.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what's something exciting going on in your business right now?
Oh, thank you. That's so nice. So the most exciting thing for me is that I have been doing these one-off readings for about 20 years. And last year, for some reason, I started coaching where I was doing like this weekly coaching with people. And I just cannot begin to fathom how crazy that is. And now I believe that every person needs a coach, a parenting coach, a sales coach, an intuitive coach, a life coach, something.
Yes.
Because someone started working with me when they were 18. Their aunt had given them a reading. And so and then after that reading, she's like, that's all I want for my birthday every year. So every year for 12, 15 years, she was getting a reading from me on her birthday. And then last year we started coaching weekly. And it was like the training wheels came off. Like this girl just completely just changed. I started this coaching and now I'm doing a lot of coaching and just, it's beyond gratifying. I'm sure you experience this in the Sales Maven community, where when you have that regular touch point and you can work through things in real time, that the growth and the transformation and the progress is exponential. And I don't know what on earth I've been doing for 20 years, just reading people once or twice a year. It's like, that's great, but this is my true life calling, and it's taken me a while to get here, but it's very exciting. Thanks.
That's the best. That's the best. I'm so happy that you're doing that, and what a blessing for the people who get to work with you in that capacity and what's possible for them. And I'm also a big believer in coaching, and I invest a lot in my own personal and professional development. Sometimes to the where I freak out my CFO when we're talking about what am I investing in next? But I always pay it always pays off. I'm such a fan of really committing and investing in yourself. Now, you got to implement, right? Like you can't just invest and then not do anything. You have to be willing to take action. And I love what you said, like the wheels came off for her. It's like now she's off and running, and it's like taking action as a result. That's awesome.
Can I say one thing about I love that you do that, because when all is said and done, your soul is the only thing you're taking with you. So what you invest in yourself and your personal growth and development, that's the only thing you're taking out of this lifetime. So it's all worth it.
I love that you shared that. I was listening to a podcast recently, and they were talking about this person was talking about the way they grew up, and they grew up in pretty tough circumstances, and their parents even harder circumstances. And the one thing that they had instilled in this person was, investing in your education, because it's the one thing that nobody can take from you. And I was like, I'm listening to this podcast going, amen. Like, I so agree with that. Like, that's the thing that nobody can just take, especially kind of where we started this conversation around identity and, that piece. Okay. Last question for you here is, how can somebody listening right now connect with you? They may need a reading. They may need to join the coaching program. Like what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Oh, you're so generous. You're so generous. I feel like you were just just a consummate generosity. I don't know what I'm saying, but so I have the easiest way for people to get it. If they want to learn about presence, they have a free download, a 5-day guide to increase presence. That's on my website at ascendedpresence.com. I'm really paltry in social media. So the best way to connect with me is to go to my website, Ascended Presence, or, I am on Instagram and LinkedIn, but for the life of me, I have a hard time getting over that hurdle of actually engaging there. But I'm around.
Go check out her website. That's actually how I got in touch with her. I heard her on Carol's podcast, Speaking Your Brand, went and looked in the show notes from Carol's podcast, then went to your website. I think I sent you like through your contact form or something. And here we get to know each other and get to be connected. So thank you for that. And for you, the listener, thank you so much for being here and taking part in this conversation. Reach out and share with Susan and or with me. What was your biggest takeaway from today? What was something that you can immediately implement to really think about and find your own way of getting back to neutrality? What is like being that energetic sovereignty? What are you going to do as a result of listening to this podcast? I'd love to hear from you. Susan, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. It was a joy to converse with you. And thank you for trusting me to have, having a sort of psychic on your very professional show that was a leap of faith. So I applaud you and I commend you. So thank you.
Thanks for wanting to do it. And I don't know if I've ever said this on the show before. We'll see what you think about it. But I know that sometimes people are like psychic, woo woo, the whole like woo woo thing. And one of my team members, she said to me for years, she's like, the thing I like about you, Nikki, is you're like one woo. Like you're not woo woo, but you're like one woo. And I'm like, I'll totally take that because I definitely have a woo woo side to me for sure. And I like that it can show up in my work as a one woo.
I do. That woo part of you is probably why you have such humanity in your voice and your offerings and in your books and your podcast. That is right. Like you have the one was all this professional, but then you bring so much kindness and humanity. And that's that spiritual side of you.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. That's very kind. All right. Thank you for being here, listener. I really, really appreciate you. I'm so grateful that you show up and listen each week. If you haven't left a rating or a review on the podcast, please do. If we haven't connected, let's connect. I am so thrilled and delighted when I hear from listeners of the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Sales Maven. Visit us online at yoursalesmaven.com/maven for more resources to boost your confidence and skills.